Whenever you talk with your boss, it's really important that you project confidence when you speak, but sometimes this can be hard to do. If you're talking about a new topic you don't know much about, if you're intimidated by senior leaders who are listening to you, or if you've just had a bad day and you're feeling a drop in your self-confidence, you can easily give away cues to your boss that you're not feeling confident in that moment. And this is bad because your boss doesn't know why you lack confidence in that moment. All they can see is from the outside, it looks like you're not a very confident person. And from this, they can make additional assumptions about you, like you're not capable of your job, that you don't believe in yourself, or that you are the wrong hire. You certainly don't want this to happen, so let's look at 3 things you should never say so you can always communicate with confidence to your boss. First, you don't want to use disclaimers or otherwise known as qualifiers when you speak. Examples of this are, you might not agree with this, but this might sound like a silly idea, but I'm sure this suggestion won't work. But when I use these phrases, can you hear how hesitant, how uncertain, and how low in confidence I sound? And imagine how they would make you sound if you did use them with your boss. The fact is, whenever you use phrases like this, you immediately devalue yourself in front of your boss. You immediately erase your value and your worth in the office, in most cases, without even realizing that you're doing it. I remember when I first started in my corporate job, I would often feel intimidated by people who were more senior than me in meetings or in general conversations. And I would often use qualifiers or disclaimers in my speech and in my communication. I did it because I thought it was good, and I thought it was a good way for me to sound humble when I was speaking to those people. But through the reactions I got, I quickly realized that I was actually leaving a negative trail behind me. People were starting to see me as somebody who lacked confidence, and this was not a good thing in the corporate world. Then when I reversed this habit and I replaced disclaimers and the low confidence communication style that I was using, I immediately saw a change in the way people responded to me and in the way that they reacted to what I had to say, to my ideas. I could see it in their facial expressions. They looked at me as though I was somebody who had a lot of confidence. I could see it in their eyes that they respected me whenever I shared an idea, whenever I spoke out loud in a meeting. And this was really a pivotal turning point in my career for me, and I still use many of these communication cues today that I have learned and that I taught myself. You will see me use them in many of my YouTube videos. So for you, it's really important that you replace disclaimers or qualifiers in your verbal communication and start to use more confident verbal communication like this. Instead of saying, you might not agree with this, but you should say, I believe, or I think the best way forward is this. Instead of saying, this might sound like a silly idea, but you should say, the idea I'd like to share is, instead of saying, I'm sure the suggestion won't work, but you should say, my suggestion is to, and then continue with your suggestion. These are really simple tweaks that you can make to your communication, but they are so very powerful, and they will definitely help you lift your communication to a level that makes you sound like a very confident professional. But on the flip side, you don't want to sound so confident that you end up sounding egotistical, because this can have negative consequences for you too in the workplace. The line between being confident in a good way and being egotistical in a bad way can be really hard to see and to identify, and it can also be pretty subjective too, depending on the person you're talking to and depending on how they interpret what you're saying. For example, you might have colleagues whom you think speak in an egotistical way, but whenever they share their ideas in the meeting or whenever they are speaking to your boss seems to really like the way that they communicate. It seems to be a communication style that they vibe with more. Then another example is you might think you are communicating in a way that makes you sound confident, but through the reactions that you get from others in the office or your boss, you might get the feeling that that people think you are not a confident person. In fact, they may actually verbally tell you you should be and you should communicate in a more confident way. This difference as to whether you sound confident when you speak or whether you sound egotistical when you speak, it really comes down to personality differences between you and the person you are talking to. So I highly recommend that you look at adjusting your communication style for the person you are talking with. And actually, this is one of the critical skills that all successful leaders have, the ability to adapt their communication style depending on whom they are talking with. They know when to be straightforward and direct with some people. They know that for others, they need to be more open, more curious, and more empathetic in their communication style as well. So this is definitely a skill, your adaptive communication ability. This is definitely a skill that you will need to learn and develop if you want to move up into more leadership roles and more senior roles as well. Now, getting back to egotistical communication, what would this sound like? Well, I'm going to share some phrases with you right now that could be interpreted as egotistical. I know best. This is how it is. Your idea won't work. These kinds of phrases will probably not work when you're talking to your boss. So instead, I recommend you say phrases like this. Instead of saying, I know best, replace it with, I feel this is the best way forward, but I am eager to hear your opinion on this. Instead of saying, this is how it is, replace it with, I believe that this is a situation we're facing, but if you disagree, please let me know. Instead of saying your idea won't work, you should say, let's look at your idea in more detail to see if it will work or not. This is a fantastic way to build rapport with your boss because it tells them indirectly through your communication style that you recognize they're more experienced and more senior than you, and they probably have more knowledge about the topic area than you as well. So it's a really good way to show that you respect them as an individual and as a professional as well. And believe me, this will definitely put you in the good books with your boss in a way that doesn't feel or make you appear to be pompous or like you are sucking up to them. The last suggestion I have for you is to not be too wordy. Now, what I mean by being too wordy is to have your communication to be long and drawn out. Because more often than not, this style of communication will bore your audience, it will bore your boss if that is who you are speaking to, and it will make them wonder whether you actually know what you're talking about. You see, when people have a lack of knowledge in a certain area, what they often do is they try to cover up their lack of knowledge by talking more, by using more words, by explaining more. Essentially, they overdo it to the point where the listener is overwhelmed and unclear about what the speaker is saying to them. And quite often this leads the listener to start to wonder whether that person really knows what they're talking about. You've probably heard the phrase, apparently from Einstein, that if you can't explain it simply, you don't know it well enough. And the key word is simple here. And you can achieve simplicity in your communication by doing these things. Reduce the number of words that you use, shorten your sentences, don't use overly technical terms, especially terms that the audience will not be familiar with. Now, your boss probably doesn't need simplicity because they have less knowledge than you, but they will value simplicity because they are short on time, because they want to know the most pressing issues and concerns and problems, and they want you to explain it to them in the quickest way possible. Time is money, especially in business, so your boss will really value it if you explain things to them and share information with them in the most succinct way possible. Here are my recommendations on how you can do that. Don't use or build up a story. Tell your boss the facts and the data quickly. Talk with your boss, not at them. Make it into a conversation and drip feed the quick information bites to them unless they tell you otherwise. Have a clear outline or talking points in your mind. Essentially, this is a mind map that you can create on the spot or on a piece of paper if you have time to prepare. Stay on track. Don't get distracted. Every time you feel you're straying from the main topic, drop that train of thought and get back to the topic you were telling them about. If you want to learn more about mind mapping and how to become exceptionally articulate with super organized thoughts when you speak, then you need to check out this video up here. You can also join my weekly newsletter where you'll get regular updates from me. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.